Okay, so I kept getting questions saying, why don't you make videos about LTD benefits? Why don't you make videos about LTD benefits? And I was like, because I do SSDI and SSI and retirement videos. What do I have to do? I don't have to do them all. So anyway, I'm giving up. I'm not doing one. I'm going to do an LTD video. Let's get right into it. Please remember to use the like finger. Very important. It works. I think it works. Some of you have it. Most of you have it. And also the subscribe finger, this one, click the all button. That means click, click. Okay. Now, with that said, let's get right into it. These are the three main mistakes. By the way, howdy, people. Howdy, Susan, Troy, and Scott. Walter Scott. We got two Scotts in a row. Very cool. Slatherings, you got to show me how to do that Twitch stuff. I don't know how to do the Twitch stuff. I tried putting in that Twitch TV thing, but it didn't work. So you got to show me how to do that later. But anyway, point is this. These are the three mistakes that LTD people, the recipients, usually make when considering trying to have disability benefits through the federal government, which are known as SSDI benefits. What are SSDI benefits? Well, it's super boring to me, but might be interesting to you to know them as Social Security Disability Insurance. Or if you say it like a person that is not trying to fancify it, Social Security Disability Insurance benefits. Okay, cool, awesome. Let's get right into it. The number one thing that they do wrong, the number one thing that just crushes my fanny pack on a Monday morning on the way to work, whatever, it's late, okay, is that they wait too long. The LTD people will go ahead and go into LTD, and then they will go into this like, I'm on auto mode, and I'm just going to sit here and wait and see what happens with my LTD benefits. Now, look, there's two types of LTDers, right? There's those who are going to get better and potentially go back to work or have a lesser job, and those who get worse. Now, look, the people who potentially are expecting to get better, the argument they usually use with me is that, oh, I don't want to have to file for SSDI benefits. I'm planning to go back to work. I have all these beautiful unicorn plans of getting a promotion and overcoming my impairments and doing all these great things. And that's cool. And I appreciate that. And I love your inspirational chat about what your life is going to do in the future. That's great. Super cool. That's awesome. But what you have to keep in mind is that most of those people all of those people have no friggin' clue what's going to happen. They have a surgery. It could not go perfectly well. The outcome could not be what they expect. They take medication. They have some problem. The impairment gets worse for whatever reason. So, people start out with this, like, I'm going to get better like this. And then they're like, I'm only getting better like this. And then they float downwards. And so the whole point here is that if you are filing for LTD benefits, you should also, super duper important, also go ahead and essentially file for SSDI benefits at the same time or right around the same time. And here's why. SSDI benefits, they take forever and a day, forever and a universal day of the cosmos wrapping around the earth and then spinning a couple of times. They take 15 months now. You go back to 2018, 2019, it took like 3 to 6 months to get an adjudication at the initial filing level. Now it's 15 months. And by 2024, it's probably still going to be 16 months, 17 months. I don't know. It's probably going to take longer. They're having an employment issue. They can't get enough DDS reps to hire them and keep them and tell them that they love them and be like, you're doing great. You're doing awesome. And then they leave. So the point is they can't get enough DDS reps to adjudicate the claims, which is massively slowing down the process for disability benefits. So if you file for LTD benefits, you will be punished by the time wizards if you don't also file for SSDI benefits. And then, of course, right? Of course, if you know you're going to get worse or things aren't going that well, you're going to have to file for LTD or SSDI benefits anyways. Because remember, LTD benefits from here to here, right? They're called long-term disability insurance benefits, but they're not that long-term. They're more than short-term disability benefits, right? They're longer than those, but they're not super duper long. They're not like rest of your life long or until you reach retirement, which is the way it actually works. Disability benefits from the federal government, albeit they usually pay you a little bit less per month, those benefits are designed to last for you all the way until you hit retirement benefits. That's the way those are. Those are the true extra long, lifelong disability benefits. So you want to file for SSDI benefits as soon as you file for LTD benefits. LTD stands for long-term disability benefits. Okay, so it's basically an insurance program set up that's different than the federal government backing it, as opposed to basically a non-federal entity that's backing it. And so people can buy into like STD benefits, which is short-term disability insurance, and then companies supply LTD benefits. So okay, I guess I should have started with the basics. LTD benefits. What are they? How do they work? Nah, I'm not going to do that. What you need to know is that if you have a problem, you go to the HR person, like a medical problem, and you're like, hey, I need to consider LTD benefits. I need to consider going on leave because I'm disabled. Something happened. Something bad has occurred medically to me. So that's what you need. I'll do a simpler video on LTD. Or here, I'll give you the most basic. Okay, LTD stands for, okay. Came up with the wrong thing. That's awesome. Good job, Google. Long-term disability benefits are, right? Let's start with the most basic, simple. Okay, long-term disability typically pays benefits equivalent to 40 to 70% of your income, but for a longer period. And they're referencing longer than short-term disability benefits. Let me give you another quick little cute thing. This is from Patient Advocate Foundation. Long-term disability, also known as LTD, can be used following short-term disability STD plans or loan. Long-term disability, so they can be on the train, STD, LTD, SSDI, right? That's the natural progression, or it can just be LTD, SSDI. Long-term disability coverage provides wage replacement that is between 50 to 70% of your earnings before a non-work related injury impacted your ability to work. Remember, non-work related injury. That's important too. I don't want to get stuck in the weeds of defining what this is, but I will read for you one more paragraph because I love you, and you also have a very strong like button finger. Let's get to it, okay? If a LTD plan is offered through your employer, it is very important to sign up during the initial enrollment period when you cannot be denied coverage for a pre-existing condition. Read the plan summary for definitions, detailing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. So point is, if you really want me to do an LTD video, what it is, how it works, what the elements are, what the requirements are, I will do it for you. I won't want to, but I will do it for you. Let's get into the next thing. So here's the next thing. That was number one. The next thing that, the mistake that LTD based people make about SSDI benefits. So there are essentially those who go onto LTD benefits and they rely too much on the information from their LTD carrier to direct the person. And so what happens, and I use carrier as a very general term because that's how I feel about it. Where you should go for potential medical, some steps that you should consider, some basics to follow. My big thing is that they rely too heavily on this autopilot of letting the LTD personnel explain to them, define to them what they should be doing. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be online researching it, learning about it, figuring out what to do, etc. And the reason why is that when it comes to LTD benefits, there are certain things that you can tap into that if you just don't know about them, you're not going to be able to access. And one of the big things that I just want to point out with this is that when it comes to medical facilities, like, when an LTD carrier is like, oh, you've got options for going to medical. You can check out this place. You can check out that place. You can check out that place. The point here is very simple. You should cross-check with that medical facility. And I mean, like the hospitals, that's not what I mean. I mean, like specific doctors. But you should cross-check the relationship of the doctors to potentially any future bias that could exist between what's going on with the LTD group and basically that doctor. And why do I say that? I have noticed that sometimes we'll get LTD reports. They're awesome. They're straightforward. Everything's cool. Everything's good. And then sometimes I'll get LTD reports back from, basically doctors that people are sent to for a review, or at least reports that are created. And the person then goes to them thereafter, not realizing the direct correlation. And we run into essentially a problem, not an easy to point out problem, but there's a potential bias there. And so you just have to be careful with like the doctors that you bring in. You have to be careful with essentially like the medical professionals that you're using, because remember, in the LTD game, a lot of the evidence is based off of medical documentation. And if there's any potential bias, they can move somebody from essentially that higher severity down to a lower severity, or they can say, oh, it's not this diagnosis, it's that diagnosis. And that can really hurt a claim. I shouldn't be saying that there's bias among objective doctors, but there is. There is. Somebody has to pay them, and somebody repetitively pays them. So when you have a doctor that's repetitively being paid for by an insurance carrier or a state government or a federal government or a county government or something you pay into, right, at the very beginning, there's potential bias that can exist. Now, next thing that you have to basically know is this, and this goes along the line of this potential bias problem that exists. When you hire a non-attorney group to represent you to go ahead and get SSDI benefits, so the way it works is that the LTD carrier will go ahead and they'll be like, hey, we would like you to go and file for SSDI benefits. And so what they'll do is they'll make a list of people that they recommend that you call to go ahead and file you for SSDI benefits. And then people will call that list. But what people don't realize is that there's either an actual agreement or a hidden agreement between that either law firm or non-law firm. I don't know why you would hire a non-law firm. They get paid the same amount as a law firm. But bottom line is, they get these groups that have this tight connection with these LTD based groups, which essentially there's this more open communication as a result between them. And so the problem you run into is the potential bias of, sometimes, medical evidence has to be shared. Sometimes important dates related to what's happening with the LTD situation versus the disability situation has to be shared and things like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the claimant usually has to give the okay, unless HIPAA or high tech is served to the law firm to go ahead and hand over that documentation. Because if an LTD carrier group basically reaches out and says, "Hey, bottom line, I would like to have this information from the law firm." The law firm is supposed to say, "Cool, thanks for calling, really appreciate it. But until I have a high tech or HIPAA signed by the claimant to go ahead and request this information, I cannot communicate it to you. I can't give it to you. I can't fax it to you. Can't email it to you." Whereas these other groups that are like super tight with these LTD carriers, the problem is they'll just send the thing right over. You'll sign an agreement right up front that says they're allowed to share with them any and all documentation related to that they may request or want or whatever. And so the problem you run into is that there's this little bias, that potential problem that creates a disadvantage for you, and you just got to be careful with that stuff. One of the things that I would say about this is that when it comes to picking an SSDI attorney or non-legal rep, you want to go ahead and make sure that this person is not connected to any of these companies or on the LTD side. The next thing is you want to make sure that it's basically a group that just does that type of law. A lot of people hire a law firm and it's like they do this and this and this: personal injury, workers' comp, LTD, VA, disability, maritime law, property law, blah, blah, blah. They do blah, 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 blah. And the problem with that is that it's hard to have a firm specialize in a particular thing if, to be fair, they're doing all these other things. Now, if it's a massive, massive firm, they might have an entire division for that particular thing. But remember, massive firms, as I like to put it, the stuffed animal has to eat a lot. So that giant firm has heavy overhead. So they're going to try and process as many claims as quickly as possible. The burger comes in here, we add our ketchup, our mustard, or this or that. We add our, pickles, we add our onions, we add our buns, and we shoot it into the wrapper, and there it goes. If it doesn't fit into this design or requires custom work, we're not super excited about it, and then they're not going to be doing as much about it. Walter Scott, thank you for the $5 donation. I super duper appreciate it. Let me give some hearts and thumbs up. That's super cool. I love the little fox there. So with that said, the main things you really have to watch out when it comes to LTD transitioning for SSDI is potential bias between the organizations that you're working with. Also, you have to worry about essentially filing as soon as possible for SSDI benefits. VA people do the same thing. VA people will be like, "Man, I just got my VA benefits. Life is amazing. I feel so good. I feel like I'm amazing." But the problem is they'll wait years to go ahead and file for their SSDI benefits. And VA people have it good. VA people, that stuff is stackable. You take your civilian disability check, you take your VA, 100% PNT or TDIU, and you can stack those puppies. You got a good life at that point. You have literally, 2 checks that give you enough per month to basically do your thing. But if you don't file for SSDI benefits early enough, you have to worry about what's called the DLI problem. What is the DLI problem? It's the date last insured. The date last insured. All right, so what is the date last insured? Okay, you're born, you die. Throughout this process, you have, a crappy time, but that's just what happens with most of us. You're born, and then you die here, right? Now, at some point you become disabled and you file, right? But you were working up to this point. Now, if you stop working each year thereafter, you're going to need, when you're older, another quarter of coverage. But the more years that you wait to not file for disability benefits after you stop working, which VA people do all the time, the more likely it is you are to need more quarters of coverage. When you get to the point where you need one more quarters of coverage, in other words, you ran out, you don't have enough quarters of coverage, then the prior year is what's called your DLI. It is the date where you are last insured, it is the last date in which you are insured for SSDI benefits. So what does that mean? It means that if you are found disabled after December 31st of 2022, right? Like on January 1st of 2023, then you cannot get SSDI benefits because it was the date where you were last insured for disability benefits as a result of your quarters of coverage. So the point is, don't let too much time go by between when you stop working and paying taxes, paying your FICA taxes, buying those quarters of coverage, right? Don't wait too long, because you'll get to a point where you're going to have to use retroactive benefits to try and claw back to an earlier time, or you might be so far out of the time limit that it's just not possible at that point. All right, guys, again, Walter Scott, a super duper thank you for the $5 donation. I really appreciate it. Anyways, I will catch you guys a little bit later. It is super late. I still have to go to the post office. You have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I will catch you later. And I'll do some more simpler videos on LTD benefits, like what is the beginning, the origin story of LTD. Well, actually, we should really start with the origin story of benefits in general for work, and then maybe go to short-term disability benefits, and then LTD benefits, and then SSDI benefits. That would be the natural progression, and then retirement benefits. Maybe we'll start with like a hierarchy or something like a forecasted timeline of like what you normally get when. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful time. Please remember to sleep well. Don't have too much fun in your dreams. Use the like button. Use the subscribe button, use that finger, click the all, and then remember, I love seeing those 5 stars. So if you want to go ahead and leave a review, you don't have to though. Go to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. And if you need a disability attorney, you know who to call. I will catch you later. Have a wonderful night. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.